Around that later on in the newspapers, so do keep us company till then. Give us your views, by the way, what do you think about what is happening just within the country, as well just beyond Kenya's borders in Tanzania. However, let's get this show started. Now, at least 4,000 families have been displaced as rising water levels in Lake Naivasha continue to submerge homes and public facilities, with local leaders warning that the situation could worsen due to the ongoing heavy rains.
The flooding has affected villages in Kamere, Karagita, and surrounding areas, leaving thousands homeless and in urgent need of humanitarian support.
Homes, schools, churches, and even a police post have been submerged as lake waters advance further inland. Residents have faulted both the national and county governments for what they termed a slow response to the crisis, accusing authorities of abandoning residents in their time of need. Mbai issued a 48-hour ultimatum for swift intervention, warning of nationwide protests if action is not taken immediately.
Mimi niko na mtoto wa 5 months. Sasa nimemwekelea huko hivyo kwa kitanda juu. Hakuna usaidizi yenye sisi yenyewe tumepata. Tunasikianga kuna pesa za disaster huku hivi. Hakuna pesa yenye tumepata. Kwa Kenya ama tu yuko Kenya? Are we Kenyans? Hiyo tu ndio kitu yenye tunaweza taka. If we are Kenyans, we need help.
Hapa leo Kihoto, nataka kutangaza hili janga ni janga la kitaifa. This is a national disaster. Si lazima watu wakufe. Si lazima watu wakufe ndio watu wakuje hapa na madege.
Hapa sewage imemix pamoja na maji, imekuja kwa maboma. Ukiangalia hata hyacinth yenye inakwanga imekuwa huko kwa lake, imekuja hadi hapa. Sisi hapa tuko na jambo moja kusema kwa serikali. Maana huwa tunalilia serikali ni kwa sababu serikali ipo kusaidia majanga kama haya. This one is a national disaster. Na tunasema wakuje watusaidie. Hapa mahali ni halali. Kwa nini ni halali? Serikali imeweka hapa barabara, imeweka stima, hapa kuna police station, hapa hao watu ambao wanaishi hapa wako na title deed. This is the time that we have had a very serious disaster. Watoto wamefunga shule, takriban familia 1200 zinaishi hapa. Na wakiishi hapa ni kumaanisha watoto ni wengi zaidi. Magonjwa yataanza kuchibuka mahali hapa. Tunaomba uhamisho wa haraka iwezekanavyo. Saizi ukiangalia watu wako devastated. Tangia jana watu hawajakula, hakuna mahali pa kupikia chakula. Hakuna mahali pa kulala. Wale watu wazee ambao walinunua haya mashamba zamani sana wamekuwa wagonjwa. Tunauliza,
tumekuwa watu wanahama for the last like 2 months Watu wamehama kama 1000 wenye walikuwa affected, but kulingana vile mvua imekuwa inanyesha kwa siku ambazo zimepita, sasa tunaongea kama watu ambao 4000 ambao wako affected. Most of them hawakuweza kuhama kwa sababu walikuwa na watoto wanasomea hapa karibu, walikuwa wanafanya mtihani. So hata juhudi ya kujaribu kuwaambia wahame tuwasaidie kuhama ilikuwa inagonga mwisho, sababu walikuwa wanasema tungojea watoto wamalize mtihani. Not that mtihani inaisha kesho na wengine wamemaliza, tukaonelea kama county tukuje tuwasaidie na transport. Wengi wametafuta nyumba lakini wakashindwa kulipia gharama ya transport. 4000 we are trying to see this week ni wangapi tutaweza kuhamisha wale wako ready.
Na pesa za disaster huku hivi. Hakuna pesa yenye tumepata. Kwa Kenya ama tu yuko Kenya? Are we Kenyans? Hiyo tu ndio kitu yenye tunaweza taka. If we are Kenyans, we need help.
Hapa leo Kihoto, nataka kutangaza hili janga ni janga la kitaifa. This is a national disaster. Si lazima watu wakufe. Si lazima watu wakufe ndio watu wakuje hapa na madege.
Hapa sewage imemix pamoja na maji, imekuja kwa maboma. Ukiangalia hata hyacinth yenye inakwanga imekuwa huko kwa lake, imekuja hadi hapa. Sisi hapa tuko na jambo moja kusema kwa serikali. Maana huwa tunalilia serikali ni kwa sababu serikali ipo kusaidia majanga kama haya. This one is a national disaster. Na tunasema wakuje watusaidie. Hapa mahali ni halali. Kwa nini ni halali? Serikali imeweka hapa barabara, imeweka stima, hapa kuna police station, hapa hao watu ambao wanaishi hapa wako na title deed. This is the time that we have had a very serious disaster. Watoto wamefunga shule, takriban familia 1200 zinaishi hapa. Na wakiishi hapa ni kumaanisha watoto ni wengi zaidi. magonjwa yataanza kuchibuka mahali hapa. Tunaomba uhamisho wa haraka iwezekanavyo. Saizi ukiangalia watu wako devastated. Tangia jana watu hawajakula, hakuna mahali pa kupikia chakula, hakuna mahali pa kulala. Wale watu wazee ambao walinunua haya mashamba zamani sana wamekuwa wagonjwa. Tunauliza,
tumekuwa watu wanahama for the last like 2 months Watu wamehama kama 1000 wenye walikuwa affected, but kulingana vile mvua imekuwa inanyesha kwa siku ambazo zimepita, sasa tunaongea kama watu.
2 people have been confirmed dead after a landslide struck Kipkenda village in Emso Ward, Keyo North Constituency, Elgeyo Marakwet County.
The incident occurred when a huge boulder loosened from the hillside and crashed into a house where the victims were sleeping, killing them on the spot.
This latest tragedy comes just 26 days after a similar landslide claimed several lives in Chesungoch, Marakwet East Sub-County, raising fresh concerns about safety in this landslide-prone region as heavy rains continue to pound the area.
Kidogo tunasikia manguruma ya mawe akitokea huko juu. Alafu tena mvua ikaendelea. Wakati mvua ilipopoa kidogo tukasikia nduru. Tulifika hapa mama amevinyiliwa na wajukuu.
Wakati wa jioni mwendo wa saa 2 nilikuja nyumba ile nyingine ile ambayo imebomoka. Kuingia huko na kula saba na kutoka. Kuingia room hii mama moja kapitia hapa chini. Kakonga ukuta katokea mpaka ndani.
Hii sehemu ya Hanging Valley kutoka Anin, Kibendo tuende mpaka sehemu ya Kapchelal hata kule Kiptoit kuna hatari.
The rains will be with us for the next couple of weeks because of just, the season itself. And so it's a call being made that if you live in a very mudslide-prone area, then you need to move. But it's a question of moving to where. If this is your home, you've built your home around this place, you have your family here, you've raised your family here. So moving is not that easy. And it's just, I think, one of the biggest challenges we get when we talk about asking people to move to higher grounds.
Yeah, sure. It's a natural calamity or disaster. And I think we have surveyors around this country who have to know the safety of a certain place and maybe keep advisory to people living around that region. But now it comes to a point whereby, because I don't think whether this is an issue that has affected this area this first time. I think it has happened, or even it has showed signs of maybe coming to happen one time. Because maybe if you go to hilly places, you find that there are a lot of heavy trees planted on the same region. So this to clearly, and you can also notice that the soil is very loose, showing that there are dangers that may come in future. So I think the government, because sometimes we may be advised but fail to take action immediately because you don't have means and power to move to a safer place. So I think the government should be advising earlier before we get to some conditions, weather conditions.
Absolutely. Now let's cross borders. Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan has officially been sworn in for a new term at a ceremony held at State House in Dodoma.
The event took place under heavy security with only invited guests allowed and internet service still restricted nationwide.
Her inauguration follows a highly contested election in which the Electoral Commission declared she won 98% of the vote.
The opposition, including the Chadema party, dismissed the poll as a sham and claims hundreds were killed in protest allegations. The government denies.
Suluhu, who has led Tanzania since 2021, becomes the first woman to be elected to the presidency in the country's history.
Tuchague hekima badala ya ghadhabu, busara badala ya mihemuko, upendo badala ya chuki, uvumilivu badala ya vinyongo, umoja badala ya mgawanyiko, na amani badala ya vurugu. Lakini vile vile ni wajibu wetu kuchagua unyenyekevu badala ya kiburi na huruma badala ya hasira. Taifa letu ni moja na lina nguvu zaidi kuliko mtu yoyote yule. Demokrasia haipimwi kwa nani kashinda uchaguzi, bali kwa jinsi tunavyoendesha mambo yetu baada ya uchaguzi. Tutakuwa na nguvu zaidi pale kila sauti chanya au hasi zitakaposikilizwa, kuheshimiwa na kuthaminiwa, na vile vile tunapoweza kuponya wenye maumivu. Hii si kazi ya upande mmoja wa serikali peke yake, bali ni kwa kila jumuiya za wananchi, vyama vya siasa, dini zetu na kila mwana.
Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba on Monday supervised the opening of a Kenya National Examination Council container in Matuga, Kwale County, marking the start of exam distribution in the region.
Ogamba, accompanied by education and security officials, assured that the government has put strict measures in place to protect the integrity of the exams and ensure smooth administration across centers. He emphasized close coordination with security agencies and school administrators to curb malpractice and guarantee fairness for all candidates nationwide.
When the main heavy theory exams for KCSE starts, for the last 2 weeks, we've been undertaking the examination across the country for both KPSEA and KJSEA, and also KCS practicals, which have gone smoothly without any instances. KPSEA was completed on Thursday, 30th of October, and KJSEA is being completed today as we start KCSE, which will run up to 21st of November this year. We anticipate that KPSEA and KJSEA's results will be released in December, and KCSE results will be released in January. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had the largest number this year of students undertaking these examinations, a total of over 3.4 million of them. 2.4 being KJSEA and KPSEA, and around 996,078 in KCSE. So KCSE begins today. It will run up to 21st, as I've indicated. And as a ministry through NEC, we put in place measures to ensure that there is a smooth administration of this cycle of exams. Our teams, field officers, center managers, supervisors, invigilators, and everybody else that we are working with, including teams from the national government through the Ministry of Interior, teams from ICT, teams from the Teacher Service Commission, are all working together using the multi-agency approach to ensure that all these examinations are undertaken in a commendable and clean manner. Because we are discouraging, as always, we are discouraging anyone engaging in any sort of malpractice or irregularity during this examination period.
Still on matters examinations, Migori Deputy Governor Dr. Joseph Mahiri has assured parents in Kuria East Sub-County that adequate security measures have been put in place to ensure national exams proceed smoothly. Speaking during a food distribution exercise at Wangira Bose High School over the weekend, Dr. Mahiri said both the national and county governments are working together to safeguard learners and examination centers. The school sits at the Kuria-Transmara border, an area historically affected by inter-community conflict. He reiterated that ongoing clashes and cattle rustling involving the Kuria and Kipsigis communities will not disrupt the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE examinations currently underway.
Funguka hasa kwa shule ambazo ziko kwa border between Migori County and Transmara, na ambazo nimeweza kuwaletea chakula kwa wanafunzi ambao wanafanya mitihani zao wakati huu wa kuanzia Jumatatu. Hili eneo letu kumekuwa na mchafuko nyingi, hasa kwa mwezi mbili ambao zimepita. Kumekuwa na vita kati ya hizi koo zetu mbili, na pia na kwa mpaka kati ya Wakuria wa hili eneo na wa Kipsigis wa Transmara. Ambao ziko kwa mipaka ni shule ambazo ni 7 ambao zimekuwa affected, hasa ni huku kati ya hii uhasama na wizi wa ng'ombe. Nimetarget shule 7 ambayo nawapelekea chakula ambayo najua itatosha ya kuwapeleka wakati huo wanapofanya mitihani zao ya kidato cha 4. Nimeweza kutembea na security team kuhakikishia wanafunzi wetu kwamba kutakuwa na security ya kutosha na chakula ya kutosha, hasa wakati ambao wanafanya mitihani. Kama sisi county government tutaweza
KCSE exams officially commenced in Laikipia County with 11,094 candidates expected to sit for the national tests.
Speaking on Monday during the opening of the examination container, Laikipia County Director of Education Bridget Wambua assured that all preparations had been finalized to ensure smooth and credible exam administration across the county.
Wambua also disclosed that one candidate from a school in Laikipia North gave birth and will be sitting for exams at the Nanyuki Level 4 hospital, noting that arrangements had been made to support her in undertaking the papers without interruption.
So we are here in Laikipia County, piloting one of the innovations in securing the integrity of our examinations. And that innovation is the use of smart padlocks. These smart padlocks are meant to help us so that from NEC we are able to see exactly what time the container is opened and exactly what time the container is locked. So the sub-county director is the only person who is going to handle this padlock, and they have been trained today on how to use this padlock from today, and we will be going around the country in all the other 250 containers to make sure that every sub-county director has been adequately trained on how to handle this padlock. Thank you.
I have pleasure to say that today we have kicked off the KCSE, which has started today. Kipsea we finished on Friday. Kijisea is also finishing today. In terms of candidature, Kipsea we had 13,198 candidates. Kijisea we had 11,956. And for KCSE, we have 11,094 candidates, all distributed across the county. We have prepared very well in terms of KCSE because we knew today is when we were starting the common exams. Of course, there are those that have been going on for the whole of last week. Some subjects that are optional in some schools have been on. But today we started across all the schools for KCSE. It has rained, yes, but we had made proper arrangements for vehicles, transportation, and also supervisors and invigilators had already been allocated for each center. And therefore we expect smooth exam administration across the county. And at this time I want to wish all the candidates in all the centers in Laikipia County very best of luck as they sit for their exams. So should there be any challenges, we are ready. We are going to tackle them. Thank you. A girl that gave birth and she had some complications. She's in Nanyuki level 5 hospital. So that is where she's taking her exams, and the exam is coming from Laikipia East.
All right, we wish all KCSE candidates all the best as they continue to sit for their papers. They will be concluding at the tail end of this month of November. I remember this is just the third last class of 844 system. We've got 2 more classes to go for year 2026, 2027. Yeah. And then eventually we'll forget about the 844 system.
And that will be gone.
Well, take a break with us. We'll be back shortly with the newspapers. Interesting headlines have been labeled out this morning. We'll be talking a little bit more about that as well as other stories that are on the papers this morning. So stay with us, don't go too far.
Yeah.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
EBN TV cares about the growth of your business. To advertise with us, call 0725 386 501 or 0740 653 453. EBN TV, transforming your world.
And we're looking at it, and we're looking at the kind of there is something that is being hidden that we don't have to see, or even that we don't have to question. It's our responsibility. It's the role of the leaders that we've already elected to make sure that they serve as well. And if we have to call them out, if we have to oversight, if we have to maybe correct something that is not working well, that is when we are just silenced. Yep. We are killed, we are jailed, we are assaulted, we abducted, and such merciless things that are taking place in Africa at large. And the Daily Nation, the Standard, sorry, is talking of a bloody crown. And it's very bad to see that you're on top of people, you're leading people and a big generation. And the end of it all, it's like you're trying to force everything into happening, and which is not the right thing. So we're reading something yes in there. And apart from Zambia's Akainde Ichilema, this is a character who's on rise from a jail cell under Edgar Lungu mirrors Tanzania's Tundu Lissu. So what happened to this guy from Zambia is the same thing that is happening to Tundu Lissu. This is the key opposition leader from Tanzania. And most of the leaders who flocked to Dodoma for President Samia Suluhu's swearing in carried the same tarnish. Among them was Kenya's Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, hardened by last year's Gen Z's protests that left scores dead. Together, they stood a fraternity of power owned in silence, silencing dissent, shielding their regimes from scrutiny, and securing victory through the shadows of disputed elections. Cynthia, it's been all around. Yeah. From some times back before, because I think that is the official campaign period that a government gives to its candidates. And we've been hearing of campaigns taking place in our neighboring country, Tanzania. And of late, and for some good time, we've been hearing of Tanzania being so peaceful. But on 28th was the eve of general election in Tanzania, where they were eyeing for a new president. And the new president who has been serving them is Samia Suluhu, who was not elected. He just took over after John Pombe Joseph. Nilikuja kuona anaitwa Joseph Magufuli. He died suddenly. And after that, we're looking at some news whereby I think it was a newspaper talking of re-election. But to me, I'm looking at it, it's like it is just the first election, because it is very clear, historically, it was painted and branded that it should be the first female African president to be elected formally. Yeah, but we've seen, now 28th was the eve of elections. And these Gen Zs, the young generation, had promised that no polls that will take place. And because it's like, I can quote and say that our leaders from Africa are very rude in a way that they just have to force way for success and maybe to make things happen. So these people could have known that we are warned and we are cautioned of not doing any elections, because maybe something is not agreeing well with the standards of, with the expectations of the people. And knowing that these young people did not want the election to take place, they just, remember this polling station was set as early as 6 a.m. They were doing the same, knowing that the young people who we are leading are not allowing, not even the young people in there alone, a bigger generation from Tanzania, they were not allowing election to take place.
Right, and you know, it's the headline really on the Standard paints a picture of what, at the end of the day, what this crown is all about, and how the President Samia Suluhu Hassan got to this particular position. Such a bloody crown it is, because it is very wrong and very insensitive to sort of downplay that there were no deaths and that there were no protests in the country, and that she said the people protesting actually came from outside. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, why would a Kenyan want to go and be at the heart of death, you know, a death situation, protesting for a country they have no interest in, perhaps just, you know, we share borders, yes, we share businesses, yes, but why would majority of Kenyans or Ugandans or Burundians or Malawians want to go to the heart of Tanzania and fight for Tanzania and bleed for Tanzania? It makes absolute zero sense. And, you know, I can only empathize with Tanzanians to hear their president downplay this and to have to go through what they've gone through, looking at the, you know, the recounts that have been made by international organizations, international observers, the residents of Tanzania, even media personnel in Tanzania, having to go through days of no power at all, you're in total darkness, days of no internet connection. I mean, just a quick question. In a day, how many times do you access internet on your phone? Like at least how many number of times are you on your phone online? And so imagine going 5 days without that and 5 days without, you know, power, and you cannot communicate, even send a simple message to somebody across the fence. And so I really empathize what a bloody week it has been, what a sad week it has been for Tanzania. And I'm looking at one of the international observers. Her name is Lizzie Adundo Yogo, who's Kenyan. And she's been able to recount her time in Tanzania, where she had gone there as an election observer, and it turned ugly very quick. And she got there a day just before, and she found out that some of the people that she was supposed to be with actually left and went back to Kenya. And her supervisor asked her to also leave for Kenya immediately, but it was too late, and she was sort of suck in with the violence and the protests, and she says she saw so many dead bodies along the way. The Kenyan ambassador to Tanzania, that is Isaac Njenga, had to literally work on how she could come back home to Nairobi. And so that should just tell you of just how the situation was in Tanzania, and it's quite sad. And the African Union needs to be called out, because you cannot send out a congratulatory message and say that you're congratulating this particular president for her re-election, and you're downplaying how she got to that point that she is. Well, you're having European Union, on the other hand, who are flagging these red flags, the disappearances, the arrests, the death tolls, the internet connection. That is just a huge detriment to the democracy, not just of Tanzania, but of East Africa.
Sure. Cynthia, I'm looking at a lot of aspects here, and I'm starting from the congratulatory message from the chairperson AU, and from there I'm coming back to our very own president. Actually, it took some time for him to send the message, and when he did it yesterday, it's like he was talking on his behalf and on behalf of Kenyans. And I'm looking at an issue whereby Namanga Road, actually Namanga border, we had a lot of Kenyans wanting to go. Actually, they are attempting, and they did not support, but they wanted to. So it's like, but they were blocked by our security personnel around that region. This is to mean that when you look at Africa, things are not, they are taking a certain shape altogether. It's like when you go to Cameroon, something very similar to Kenya's, to Tanzania, to Uganda, to another region in Africa is taking the same pace, the same direction. And again, it's like something has not been going well. And that's why you see it's like we are waking up. We are looking at it now. Look at Cynthia, Cameroon. led by a 92-year-old guy. What can he think of? He's been there for 40 years, 8 terms, maybe. Then what else? What fresh can you think of? So that's why I'm thinking of, if you feel that, because Cynthia, you have to note that, and notice actually, if you're not, someone is not interested in what you're doing, or even people don't love you, I think, and politically, and when it comes to governance, I think there is a way you have to realize now. And then you have to leave the space as soon as you notice that things are not working well.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at a place where internet was blocked for 5 days, Cynthia. We used to traditional media for some good times. Ukisikia ni time ya prime news, unaenda una switch radio, unaizima immediately after the news is off. But now look here, we are transformed, and we've come into social media. This is new technology, and you are on your phone every day because maybe you're working through your phone. You have to be there all through, and your internet is cut off for 5 days. This is to mean it's something like a internet blackout, whereby you're not supposed to access anything. Remember, constitutionally, you are supposed to have a freedom of speech and expression, and there are a lot of things that you're supposed to express yourself on social media, but you are blocked. Then again, I saw AG of police from Tanzania yesterday trying to say that now that internet, you are now free to access internet. You're not supposed to share anything that looks like may taint someone, or even may try to downrate someone, or even to try, it's like you're traumatizing someone. And my question was in there, you preventing us from sharing any information. We are already traumatized. When internet was blocked, yes, 2 days ago, the reports were that 700 people were killed. A
watchdog role.
Yeah.
And I get in 2022, if you remember, where media stations were now tallying their own votes, and it got to a point where they stopped.
Yeah.
However, if you're having the social media being cut off, if you're having the traditional media being cut off, you're not able to access the news.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
yes,
not able to.
If at all you did vote, then you would want to know, okay, then how's the progress of this particular election? How many votes did the president get from this particular constituency, from this region, from that region? But if you're not able to time that, then you're basically in darkness. And I read into reports by journalists from Tanzania whose hands were tied, and I can also empathize with them because they've had to deal with a lot of backlash from the residents of Tanzania, from international journalists. But at the end of the day, if you sit back and really think about it, their hands were tied to the extent that they have to think about it's either my security or I lose my life. There's no in between. I cannot report on this and expect to still be alive or still be safe. I have to intentionally choose my security, and you're not doing that willingly. It's just the circumstances have forced you to choose that. And they talked about how they had to send journalists to various areas to cover. And when they get to those areas, the journalists are caught in gunfire. And as an editor, for example, I have to look at the security of my journalists. That is the first step. This place that you're going to cover, are you safe? What is the essence of me getting this story and I lose my journalist? And so that is the catch-22 situation they found themselves in. And they've received a lot of backlash about this. But I'd also love us to just put ourselves in their, in their shoes. This is not a country that has got expressive media laws like Kenya, where a leader can stand and just speak something against the media, and we have the constitution that is able to guarantee the freedom of media. We've got the corridors of courts. But this is Tanzania, where the media laws are not just as expressive as ours. And so the journalists at this point, I'm sure they'll be thinking, how do we strengthen the media laws to allow us to do our job without the interference of the government, without intimidation, without threats, without being coerced to report a certain way. For example, with the swearing-in ceremony that took place yesterday, at a military parade ground. Now, get this, there's only one station that was actually allowed to broadcast, and that was the Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation, TBC. For Kenya, it's the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.
KBC.
So you can imagine if we're having elections in Kenya and it's only KBC Broadcasting, and then it's limited. I cannot access it online. It's just limited to how the government wants it or how far the government wants it to go. So that definitely should tell you this is a country where media freedom and media laws is a foreign concept for them. And as much as we want to blame the media, you know, blame the laws.
Yeah.
The laws that have been set really don't guarantee them to be able to express and work independently and freely.
Yeah, sure. Cynthia, we shall also be looking at the numbers that Suluhu garnered.
Yeah.
It's what I called irony of numbers and mystery of numbers. But before we go there, I'm looking at the tyrannical and dictatorial nature from Suluhu. Remember, he blocked observers from going to Tanzania. He blocked media from going to Tanzania to cover all this event. And again, to worsen all this issue is one of our journalists here from Kenya was he was arrested and held for more than 3 hours. Then he was released. Look at the trauma, look at the distress that you are trying to put on this, and this guy is there to inform people. I remember, like, the last time we had protests here in Kenya some few months ago, I was watching what's happening all around, and I think I was supposed to go to Thika, but I did not go because I was fearing of safety on the road. Now, sometimes to noon, I'm looking at Alsop's Thika Road. It's impassable. Then look at, if I did not have information, I could have just found myself in the same place. And these young people were throwing stones everywhere. They were throwing stones to people's cars moving around the place. They come on your car. Now you can't drive further because you may find yourself knocking very many people, and it becomes so dangerous to you. Yeah. So I think information is very key for Samia trying to block media and observers from covering all these events, I think.
Yeah, that should have raised a red flag for the African Union.
Yeah, and the red flag that is adorning a red flag on his head. But for that matter, yes.
And you know, just perhaps talk about that as well. You know, this being a private ceremony.
Yeah.
This is the first time that I'm seeing a quote-unquote duly elected leader having to do a private ceremony where the people that elected her are not able to attend her own swearing in. I mean, look at the number of people that attended Kasarani. Was it Kasarani? Yeah, when President William Ruto was being sworn into office, because those were his supporters. They were allowed to be there to witness this monumental time. I mean, this should have been a celebration in Tanzania, right? That we have elected a female president in office for the first time. Why can't we go and witness this? But you know, just the makings of the ceremony, the perception is that, you know, they were trying to control who enters there. They were trying to control the narrative. They were trying to control literally everything that was happening in this ceremony, which was a private ceremony. And you know, it just didn't make sense at all. And it will be interesting to see how she rules Tanzania for the next 5 years. Her term runs down in 2030, and how will she get the trust and the of her people back? I think
it's eroded. It's eroded. And I'm looking back at Moi's time. A lot of choirs used to sing. I remember one song. I don't remember it very well, but I'm looking at an event where Moi was gracing. And I'm looking at the choirs that could be singing there, the presentations that should take place around the same place. But I'm looking at I think this is the place now we need to talk of the numbers that Suluhu got. And we're looking at the numbers in terms of the supporters, because I'm imagining it, I'm looking at it, that if I have to make a celebration or a ceremony somewhere, Cynthia, I have to call the friends that are within and around me. But look at Samia, the population of Tanzania is around 60 million people. And I'm looking at the people who voted. Remember, it was a promise that these elections won't take place. So I'm looking at how Samia got that 31, very close to 32 million votes. It was a solo race. Then I'm looking at, again, who voted for this Samia Suluhu, because everyone is like 90% or 80% was involved in the protests. Where was the time to vote?
Yeah, and you know, I made this reference yesterday that in 2020, when she was voted in together with the late John Pombe Magufuli, they garnered just a mere 8 million votes. And the closest challenger, who came second, garnered 6 million votes. And so to have that huge jump from 8 million in 2020 to 30 million in 2025 goes against all nature of mathematics. For example, in Kenya, in 2017, the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, won with about 5 million votes, right? In 2022, fast forward, that number increased with the winner garnering 6.2 million votes. And so that should tell you there's a certain level of, there's a way that the voting casts need to be counted, and there's a way that the numbers would reflect on how people have turned out. But if you're telling me that in this election, which have been mad with violence, with protests, with killings, with media censorship, with international observers censorship, with citizen censorship, you're not allowed to just post whatever you want to post, that 31 million people came out and actually voted for you, it's just... It does not add. It does not add the math. And then whoever comes second comes with 238,000. Is it?
From 31 million. Surely, that's a very big margin.
And it's just we can only look at this, and we hope that other countries will learn from this. That they will be able to be willing to improve on the electoral reforms, to improve on their media reforms, to improve on citizen reforms, because this is just sad, and it's pathetic really that African leaders have been able to downplay this and just assume that nothing happened in Tanzania.
Yeah, sure. So Cindy, I was saying that I'm looking at this swearing-in ceremony whereby it was security was beefed up, and I don't think how you can block in all your supporters that just voted for you, because if you look at the security that's just around the eventful place, there are very few. If you try to use these people to vote for you, I don't think whether you just...
You should be very scared of them.
Yes, you should be very scared. That's what I'm looking at. Yet you are voted by 90% of you people. Then you don't allow them. You are loved. But where's the irony, Cynthia?
You're scared of this people.
Yes, you're scared of it.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the picture. The nation has put a very good picture of the security. Wow, must be the most protected president on earth during election day, right? But that is just where it is with Tanzania. And unfortunately for their laws as well, interestingly, unlike Kenya, where you're able to challenge the results of an election.
That's very hectic.
With Tanzania, you're not able to challenge it. And so the moment the election, should be the election council, I believe, has announced the results, then that is what it is. And it has been bound and it has been tied.
And Suluhu is sworn in and is the president of Tanzania. So I'm looking at it. How can we challenge our votes? And they are our votes, not your votes. Your vote is only one. Then you are not supposed to be challenged, either by activists, neither by the court. So this looks like... so I think because of time, I just want to read the top stories from the same key person, then we just transition to the Daily Nation. So page 8 of the Standard is talking of Suluhu sworn into office without sharing crowds and songs of unity. And page 9 of the same, Samia blames foreigners for chaos amid regional snap. There is a time he was mentioning of a country that maybe supported his people, and they were called Viumbe vya Ajabu. And now I think it's changed. He has baptized maybe the country or the countries who maybe supported protesting in Tanzania. They are called foreigners for chaos amid regional snub. And the last thing that I'm reading from the Standard Nation is that birds of a feather, Samia flanked by presidents with tainted records. And we're still in the same record where page 8, we're talking of Kenya's Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, second left in the front row during the inauguration of Tanzania President Samia Suluhu yesterday. And I think we've seen in the first page of the Standard, he was strengthened and hardened by Gen Z's protests over last year.
Yeah, and the leaders, I don't know if it's interesting or is it a coincidence that attended have also been leaders that have, their ascension to power has been marred with controversies. This includes 3 presidents: Zambia's Hakainde Hichilema, Burundi's Evariste Ndayishimiye, and Sheikh Hassan Mohamud of Somalia. And I'd throw in Deputy President Kithure Kindiki at that as well because of the Gen Z's demonstrations and the deaths that were reported. And, with the blame, the Standard puts it as her blaming foreign personnel. So this is what she said concerning, views or thoughts that had come from observers. And I quote, "We thank the observers for their opinions, which we have received with respect. But as President Mkapa once said, we will not accept instructions on what to do. We will consider advice, but will not compromise our sovereignty." And so, I mean, well, Suluhu is the president for the next 5 years in Tanzania. Barring any other incidences that may come in between, and it will be a question of how then can she push this country together and unite this country, because at the moment it's torn. And so she's got a huge job ahead of uniting this nation, of regaining the trust of these people, and ensuring that people will be able to freely walk in Tanzania, not just Tanzanians, but also foreigners can freely walk in Tanzania without the fear of being you know, embroiled in issues that they are not part of. So we'll leave it at that. Quickly, on the Daily Nation, top of the page, back locally, buried alive. Death toll rises to 30 as state reveals 14 learners among the victims of the Elgeyo Marakwet mudslide. Now, for residents of some villages in hilly Elgeyo Marakwet County, the events of the last 4 days are straight out of a horror movie. One moment, they are full of life, sharing evening meals before going to bed. The next, they lie either lifeless or injured under heaps of soil and huge rocks, their homes swallowed by the ground or pounded flat. And that is concerning the story that we have been keeping tabs on for the better part of the weekend as well, concerning the mudslides that happened in Elgeyo Marakwet, where the death toll is at 30, according to the Daily Nation. One of the local TVs was reporting 32 yesterday evening. So we'll just wait to get the proper confirmation from authorities on just the exact number of deaths that have been reported, with 14 learners among those who are dead. And so, you know, to talk about just the disaster management in Kenya, I think this is one of the areas that we are I wouldn't say slightly, but actually lagging behind on how do we manage disasters, and do we have institutions that are well equipped to be able to, yes, we understand this is a natural calamity, but at the same time, if an incident is reported 26 days ago that there was a mudslide somewhere within the same county, then chances are that with the heavy rains that are coming, something is also going to be recorded. And so the disaster management team, when we applaud them for what they have done, evacuating and ensuring that those who were injured have access to medical services, that examinations are able to reach areas in Elgeyo Marakwet County, which you know, are not able to go through by road and you know, are subsequently helped by air. We applaud them for that. They're doing a great job, but we can do better as a nation, as counties. County disaster management teams, are they prepared? I was listening into a story from Garissa just last week, and they were talking about starvation crisis. 3,000 households are dealing with starvation, and that is in Garissa. Now you must be wondering, how is that possible, yet other places are raining? Well, you know, this is the northeastern part of Kenya where rainfall doesn't come easy for them, and so are we having the proper preparation, you know, manifesto? Do we have enough funds that can be able to help families? Because these people that have been displaced, are we able to quickly resettle them? Or is it going to be a story where 1 year later we are covering about how they were promised, you know, to be resettled and were not resettled? And so those are some of the things that we need to be talking about as a nation. The disaster management, post-disaster management, as well as always being prepared. Just be prepared always. And there's a reason why we have these devolved functions, and you're having units within the counties that are set up to help with disaster management. And it's a question, I don't know if it's really about the funds or is it the goodwill. I'm not really sure where it falls, but could be both. Could be we don't have enough funds that are being allocated to these teams, or the fact that there's also a less goodwill where you know, people are very used to having a smooth life, and then one day disaster hits, and then we are quickly running back to the fact that, oh, you know, we've got disaster management teams in counties and so on. That's the tragedy. 30, I'd say more than 30 people dead, 14 learners among them, and we condole with the families.
Yeah, great. Now, Cynthia, I'm looking at a place, I think around Rift Valley. Actually, is it on, there is a place, Chongwan, some place there. I think that we've been noting landslides taking place around that region. Even, I think, last year's rains, they were so heavy, and we saw an incident taking place where one house,
Nakuru, Naivasha.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a place whereby we need to be noting. I think I need to put in place, or even I need to put into concern we have geological experts, whereby they have to know weather, they have to know climate, they have to know how a place has been behaving from some times. I think we need to have that history. So I'm looking at that place around Rift Valley, and actually it's very close on Nakuru-Nairobi highway. I'm looking at what keeps on happening. You find cracks on the road, and this has to tell you that we need to employ geological experts to make sure that they learn all this and they keep records of all this. They note that this happened this year and it's likely to happen. You always hear of, we call it mwezi kushikwa majua, eclipse. We are just aware of when another eclipse is taking place. So I think we also need to be aware of what may happen in a certain place. If only we don't have to behave like a last-minute country, whereby maybe you also mentioned of the issue of starvation around northeastern regions. And I think it's all about preparedness. You need to prepare your people, because a lot of people that are living not so well informed of issues that may take place around them. So if you keep on doing civic education to these people, informing them of what may happen naturally, I think it would be it's like, since they're talking of mountains that erupt. Yeah. You are told it has erupted this year, and it's likely to erupt maybe 30 years to come, because they always keep on, it's like they keep gauging how it may happen and how the lava maybe forms. Yeah. So they have information of how these things take place. But looking, I think, Cindy, I may talk of maybe these people, you talked of goodwill, but again, I also think of whereby it's like this region is marginalized. They feel that nothing much comes from this region. So I don't feel as a nation or as a government and county government, for that matter, that I don't feel that we have to invest so much on this region, because it is marginalized. It brings nothing to the economy. But because they are people from our country, our region, I think a lot of care, a lot of preparedness before anything happens. And if it happens, maybe it should not be happening at such an example whereby we are looking at that 2 people or even more buried alive. It's because look here, Cynthia, you've heard of an incident taking place in your own place and your people are affected. Will you live well? And because of the carelessness of maybe a government and leadership.
Yeah, so that is a sad state of affairs in Elgeyo Marakwet. Remember, just yesterday morning, the death toll was at 26, and so by evening it had increased. And, you know, the rescue operations are underway. That number is likely to go high, and hopefully, you know, it will just stop at that. But, you know, counties now need to start preparing, especially because we all know November, the rains will be here with us, most of the parts of the country. So are we prepared for any eventualities, any mitigation factors? Do we have personnel who have been properly trained and can actually deal with disasters rather than just, you know, people who really have no clue, who have no clue in those particular offices. So that is the headline on top of the Daily Nation, which, you know, is one of the stories that have made it to the headlines. And yeah, that's just about it from my end on the Daily Nation. With the, you know, the examinations are underway. The KCSE exams began on Monday. About 900,000 candidates will be sitting for these papers. Remember, they just began with orals, which was last week. And so this week we're having the actual theory and practical exams taking place, and they'll be concluding at the tail end of this month. So we wish them all the best across the country, and we wish them, you know, really nothing but the best. Let them score good grades, and they'll get, you know, to best of higher learning institutions next year.
Yes, great. Cynthia, before we go, there is, I think church should be also involved in this issue taking place around Tanzania. And one of very key men of God around Kenya has written something here, and you can read it. He's quoted it from page 10 of the Standard newspaper.
All right. Reverend Felix Kavoy, who's the CEO of EBN TV, as well as the lead pastor of Redeemed Gospel Church, has just sent out and said concerning the Tanzania issue says this is wickedness, subjecting a country and its economy to such scale of instability when you very well know who the people want as their leader and blocking him by all means. You provoke people by denying them their choice, and if they raise their voice, you shoot and kill them. What a wickedness. Some of these riots are a perpetration by one person. They are criminal in nature. And you know, for any normal human being, you would have the same stance.
Sure.
Any normal human being, you have
Cynthia,
the same stance.
I also feel, kama kitu ni mbaya, there is no way it can change. Because I'm looking for maybe 10 seconds. I'm looking at Suluhu taking power, just being handed over power from John Pombe Magufuli, who was a bit better than what we can see in comparison. And then what if, now it comes to your point of taking it formally and professionally, if I can quote it, it's like you're trying to force everything into being. Cynthia, if I've forced me into a certain position, what do you think I'll change in future? Kama mbaya.
Well, we'll be keeping tabs with stories coming from Tanzania. I'm sure for the next couple of days, we'll have a lot of testimonies. I'm just going through online some of the journalists from Tanzania who say the internet is back. And so they have pledged that for the next 4 days, they'll try to just give an account. Actually, for the next few days, they'll try to give an account of what has happened in the last 4 days. Yeah. And we'll be looking to see whether they'll be able to do that. And just, you know, what's the way forward for Tanzania. So we wrap it up at that point this morning. Thank you for watching. We hope you're duly informed and duly updated. I'm Cynthia Nanjali. We hope, and Tanzania will get well, and Tanzania will be strong again. But we pray for the country because we've known Tanzania is a very peaceful country, and it is descending into such conditions because of leadership. So as you vote again, vote wisely. Coming up next, Your Faith Today with Felix Avoy. My name is Jeff Kimayu.